Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all? Welcome to Question Time Live. Back this week again. Apologies for last week. I just literally had that much on. I run out of time working like mad in the fish houses, and there never seems to be enough hours at the minute. But there we go. I hope this absolutely bonkers spring season once again is not completely messing up your ponds too much, especially those that are unheated. I was in Denmark at the weekend doing a presentation at one of the shows out there, which was really nice to meet everybody who's been following what we've been doing and seeing what the scene is out there like, to be honest. Yeah, pretty cool. Some interesting stuff as well. I kind of picked up and noticed, which I'll be interesting. I'm hoping to get some feedback from the guys at some point. But yeah, plenty amazing shop. Koi Centenodis, Lars, absolutely. Yeah, phenomenal. The amount of, I've never seen so many drum filters stocked, actually on stock in one place. It was absolutely insane. So there we have it, folks. I have got a couple of bits this evening. So obviously, Question Time Live, please fire in some questions that I will get to as soon as possible. I haven't got any koi appreciation sorted, and likely this evening I'm only going to be on for about 40 minutes because I need to get back home. But yeah, please, guys, let's say fire in some questions. The episode that I did do last about the parasites and the treatment seems to have gone down really, really well. So I think moving forwards, I'm going to look to maybe do some more structured talks or Q&As like that, where we're actually topical on the evening, and you'll know in advance, so we can literally just hammer in around that subject and make sure it's not a conversation about food every week as it tends to be, but always good, that one. This evening, I will say I'm quite unprepared. Operations business wise is absolutely huge at the minute, taking over because there's a lot of stuff that I'm working on. So oh, Richard, absolutely. Someone mentioned the football. Yeah, to be honest with you, I know Chris is sick of hearing about the football. So it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it, that United's now had a better season than Arsenal, and he's very, very aware of it, to say the least. It's been good fun. Yeah, so yeah, like I say, operations are absolutely bonkers, and yeah, I think, to be honest with you, guys, in all honesty, I'm going to give it a bit of a break on the Q&A because I'm just feeling a slight bit fatigued with it, and because I'm finding myself in a position every week where I'm doing that much, it's becoming a rush to get down here and crack on. So going to give it a break just for a couple of weeks, and then, like I say, look to come back and then start doing, you know, the question time, a bit more topical every week, which will be nice. Yeah, so I will get to it in a minute. What I have got, and again, lack of preparation, guys, I am sorry, and I don't just want to be sat on my phone now. So yeah, what I have got, I've actually two amazing fish. I'm going to share them with you on my phone. I'll try and stick them up to the camera so you can see it, that I'm auctioning this evening. So I released a video of the Saito Ginrin Karashis and Matsu recently. Video was done really, really well. And there is a particular Ginrin Kawari on there that's got a lot of attention. And there was another fish that I didn't feature. So got this phenomenal Ginrin Tancho. A bit overexposed there in the light, but you get the gist of it. And the Kawari, which is an absolutely insane fish. So both of those, if you're on the Koi Wholesale WhatsApp, I'm going to release some details, but we're auctioning them exclusively with Chris at JPN Koi this evening, which you won't want to miss. And yeah, just in case you haven't got it, let me share with you now. That's it, the QR code. Look, so you can scan that and get access to the WhatsApp group. And as soon as I'm done on here, I'll let everybody in for a look at that one. But yeah, cracking fish. And then we're actually going to be doing the release of those Ginrin Karashigois at the weekend, I believe. Not sure exactly when, but again, we'll put some details on WhatsApp about that. But they're not to be missed. They're absolutely superb. And I think everyone's going to be blown away with the price and what they're actually delivering for the money, in all honesty. So yeah, enough waffling. Let me get into some questions, and then Yes, Craig, I did have a great trip to Denmark. Thank you. It really is nice to see what's going on in these other countries, sort of like on the koi scene. Interestingly, come across quite a bit of talk about bacterial problems again as well. Amazes me. It just seems to be such a massive prevalent problem around. To be honest, we knew it was an issue, but I probably underestimated just how big of an issue this really is, and interesting to see out there problems. From some bits I picked up, gut feeling is it could possibly be heading towards some water issues, quite a few funky smells and tastes going on with that. So, like I say, let's see over time. Right, let's have a look. Evening, Ricky. Got myself a couple of SFF fish, Sakai fish farm from Denby Ponds that would have come through yours. Dead happy with them pushing 38 jumbo tosan iron-heated. Amazing. Yeah, they are absolute beasts. Actually had a shipment in last night. There's more of the SFF fish of mine from the auction come in, the last of them. But the ones previously now have all moved to the 3.5K pond for their summer growing. And honestly, that pond is sensational. And looking at what they're doing without even trying to push them, exciting stuff. And I also recently went through the pond where I've been growing the big Nisai. I did share a video on Facebook. And I did manage to get one. I swear in that measuring bowl, I don't fully trust it, but it was 59 touching 60. It was somewhere there, maybe 59 and a half, call it. But just remarkable results across the board. And to picture this year's pond at the quality level it is, potentially, having fish of that size, it's mind-blowing. But serious genetics, and they are worth, as in the majority of cases, worth every penny. Right, let's have a look. Craig, any tips for speeding up nitrification cycle on unheated pond? Nitrites increasing, so changing water, stop feeding until it comes down a bit, and we'll feed them sparingly until it settles, salted to 0.3. So my big tip for you there, Craig, is to stop with the water changing. I tend to find what it can really be unsettling for a new filter, adding too much water. You want to just let the environment mature across the board. Don't interfere by changing too much water. Let it do its job. Get the feed in at a level that's consistent as well. This is really important. You've got the salt in there, so we can, we're not got to panic as much. But I would want you to just maintain the feeding at a consistent level, whatever you're comfortable with, just so the filter can really adapt. Because what you don't want to do is ease off too much. Obviously, pressure's on there. New pond syndrome's a little bit different because everything goes out of control. But ultimately, if you ease back too much, your filter's then going to be adapting more quickly to that level. And the minute that you then increase that feed, you're going to get a spike, and it could potentially be a bigger spike. So if it's just nitrite that you're dealing with now and you've passed the ammonia phase, I would suggest to stop water changing, leave it be, add a good beneficial bacteria like one of the gels, EA filter gel or one of the Bacter Plus ones. I really do believe in them. They're great products. They're proven to work. Just bear in mind that with nitrite, if it's a new pond, you're likely going to have nitrite problems at low levels for quite a while. For the first 12 to 18 months, expect it. And just make sure you've got a consistently good KH level as well to support that nitrification. So if you're doing all that, let's say stop with the water changing, just in case, you happen to be putting a bit too much fresh water through that might even be carrying a bit of chlorine. I'm not saying it is, but that's all going to be damaging. So just let the environment settle down and mature without any interference. That is what I like to do in doing them. Water changing is not something I'll get on board with if ammonia gets really out of hand and needs dealing with quickly, but it's not something that I want to be messing around with too much. Did somebody mention football, Richard? No clue, mate. I think I mentioned that already once, haven't I? Oh, Chris, bless him. Absolutely. He could not stand. It took me all of 5 minutes to ring him in as well after that final whistle. Absolutely crazy. Carp Lester, hi Ricky. What are your thoughts on Marudo, Koaku, Sankey, Ginrin Chag's got a few good toe sign. Interest in your views on that farm. Thanks. Yeah, I mean Marudo is a heavyweight, so I often speak of this. I think sort of current rankings we've got Sakai, Dainichi, and I kind of sit them like that because there's no denying Sakai's out in front, and then a Momotaro. And then you've got this next level here. And don't get me wrong, this is an absolute elite level. And that for me is where the likes of a Nogami, Hoshikin, Marudo, Omasako, NND, all them kind of guys sit on that level. And that's where Marudo sits. But I mean, in regards to Sankey, Marudo is one of the core Sankey bloodlines that is revered in Japan. Really, really revered. You know, a lot of breeders go to Marudo for parent Sankey. It's a great line, just got some serious quality to it. Again, Marudo Kohaku, the Dainichi base that they've got. Marudo was one of the famous Dainichi Obikai, so he's in that exclusive club that trained under Minoru Mano with the likes of Nogami, Omasako's father, Mariyama, all them guys. Serious stuff. And yeah, those two Go Sankey lineages are phenomenal. I think for me, one of the things possibly with the farm, with Kohaku and Sankey, it's one of them farms where you've really got to get into the higher level stuff to truly start appreciating them. You will see the qualities, the skin qualities, absolutely. But for me, we're getting into the realms of to really see the real flashy fish. Unfortunately, they do come at a bit of a cost. The Chagoi line is renowned worldwide. I fortunately got my hands on Marudo Chags this year, which I was delighted to. Growing them at the minute, sold quite a lot already. But yeah, the Ginrin especially, so sought after and great to get them. But it's just phenomenal big blood and a great line. It's really nice colour to it, slightly on the darker side, not the really oaky ones, but not quite as pale generally as the Marusei Chagoi bloodline as well. So yeah, nothing bad to say about Marudo's production. It's a serious heavyweight of a farm. Real family operation still as well. You know, that's what I love. There's that many different generations there now. It's bonkers. But yeah, this is a guy capable of pulling out some major fish on that Go Sankey front. And nice to see him put a concerted effort into Showa again recently as well. And really seeing some top stuff come up on that front, albeit much lower quantities than all the other stuff. So yeah, great farm, mate. Really great farm. Koi Kicks, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Ricky, what's your personal views on the pond water testing, i.e. test kits, etc., accuracy and regime at Koi Wholesale? So yeah, I think the big difference between us and the likes of yourselves as hobbyists is we are more reactive than proactive. The one thing we are very proactive with is KH. That is, I mean, you imagine 60 ponds, you ain't going to be doing absolute full run on them all the time. And you don't need to because they're mature and established systems. Plus, our observation goes a long way. It's not going to give you accurate readings, but trust me, we know if there's a pond that's not functioning and what it's likely going to be. However, with testing, I think I've made it quite clear in the past, for me, the electronic and digital stuff I've got no time for unless it's for salt generally. I think in the end, it can give you too much information and to the point where you then becoming obsessing over things that aren't realistic. With the liquid tests, there are some good ones out there, but likewise, if you get a bad batch or a bad kit, that shit will drive you crazy. Brands for me that I kind of, Colombo and NT Labs have always been my go-tos on that front and super reliable for me. And I think they tell you as much information as you need to know. Without going to the extreme cases of all the others. KH, like I say, so massively important because we know if the KH is stable, generally the bacterial system is going to be functioning, you know, at its peak. If it's not, we're likely going to start seeing some issues in the other parameters. And like I say, I stress again, in a mature system. In an immature system, it's just chaos. Obviously, you want to be on it and know what's happening. But also, you can be on it and know what's happening too much with that because you start expecting it to change too quickly. And it can be one of them where the parameters will hang out at shit levels for so long, then all of a sudden it just clicks. So that's where, for me, you know, kind of observation of the fish more than anything really comes in and seeing how they're doing. But yeah, testing, like I say, proactively, I think is good if you're not that experienced, but no need to be going into crazy depths. Like I say, again, if we know the KH is stable, likelihood his pH is going to have a lot of stability as well. But if you're not in the realms of having a stable KH, it's the Wild West. It's absolute chaos what's going on. So for me, ultimately, I think the most important parameter to be on at all times. And it's also actually useful, you know, if you are more inexperienced, you know, doing that test. You're not going to do it even every week, to be honest, every couple of weeks or even once a month if it's a really mature system and your fish are looking good. That's the most important thing, you know. How are the fish looking? Let them be the guide on all this. But that information can be useful. Sometimes you could get to see patterns as well. If you do have a problem, at least there's some kind of history there that you can look back at. I think that kind of login is quite good with all other kind of things. When you've added a medication, when you've added new fish, stuff like that. Just so if you ever got a problem, it's a bit easier for whoever you're going to for help, i.e. your dealer, to possibly look back at the history and go, right, that's your potential cause there at this time. The timing stacks up and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing wrong with a bit of information, but when you get in nitrite read, people worrying about an ammonia reading of 0.06, it's just going to drive you mad, folks. And it's just not for me. But like I say, with the amount of ponds we've got, in reality, being super proactive is just not realistic. Let's have a look, folks. Dave Gardner, can you overfeed? Absolutely, yes, you can. And this is when I talk about that fine line all the time. That is the one that I live on this time of year, especially in the intense raising periods. And yeah, that overfeeding can come quite quickly. If you're not warm enough, say you've switched to a growth food and you're not warm enough, very quickly there you can potentially overfeed because the food's going to be too rich, too fatty, and they're not going to be digesting it very well. And likewise, you can overfeed the filter. That's where this goes. You overfeed the fish because they keep eating, but then the filter falls down because it can't process it, because it's not used to that feeding level. That's why when I speak of the build-up process, it's build up slowly, so the filters can adapt and the fish can adapt to processing and the eating pattern as well. That's one thing where, again, your feeder comes in as an amazing tool, because you get a consistent level and a consistent timing. So then observing it and the information you get back is far more accurate than random sporadic feeding, where you could feed 200 grams one day, 500 grams the next. That's going to cause chaos in your pond and in your system overall. Here we go, Ray. This could be an interesting one. Evening, my naivety. Could you explain the difference between a Doitsu and a Beni Konryu, i.e. the history, bloodline, etc.? I've got both and would love to understand the difference. Yeah. So both Doitsu, I think the big confusion here is understanding which is which. Konryu blood, Konryu are just crazy. Doitsu are often built off the back of Showa, strong Showa lines, where they then add the Doitsu element to it, which creates, I think I spoke about this too. I've spoke about it somewhere. I was actually, sorry, it was the presentation in Denmark, not on here. You see some new Doitsu lines whereby, you're crossing Wagoi with a Doitsu fish. What it ultimately does is that's a great way to produce size. And this is why some Doitsu fish don't grow so well. You see the ones that are highly refined, where there's no scalation at all. That's a severe level of inbreeding that's basically had to happen to produce that and get rid of the scales. So when you start a new lineage, that's basically what happens. You're crossing Wagoi with Doitsu, so there's a lot of Showa blood in there typically, and away you go. But it takes a long time. If they're willing to accept scalation on the Doitsu fish, then you will get bigger growth, bigger bone structures, but they don't look that same clean refined as like the Shinoda and Hiroi lines and where they've got to. Beni Konryu obviously were a variation of the Konryu line. Again, phenomenal fish, but they're just wild. The Sumi actually behaves in a very different way between Showa and Doitsu and Beni Konryu. Doitsu is a little bit more typical of Showa because they are more closely related. Konryu blood is a bit more wild and it's super highly unpredictable. The patterns can really change. It's an aggressive Sumi that comes up, quite quickly in certain waters and environments. But they hold a very different pattern. If that's the part we're talking about, where there's some confusion in because they can look very similar, especially when you get the red, black, and white versions of Beni Konryu. You can get a all red and black version, which do look insane as well. I actually really like them. But the red, black, and white version, what you'll get typically with a Doitsu, or the easiest way to explain it is you'll get a more structured pattern with a Doitsu. You'll often see a lot more Sumi on the head probably, but you'll get the more structure to the pattern. Whereas with Beni Konryu, the pattern style is a lot more informal. You often see a different kind of hue of Beni as well, not in all cases. But that's the main way I identify them looking straight away. You just see a difference in that pattern. You don't necessarily see it, where you've got the block, like the Showa behind me, to be honest, that kind of block structured pattern. Beni Konryu would be a lot more informal and funky in that respect. Like I say, you do get the two different types where you've got red, black, and white, and just the red and black version. So, but yeah, I love Beni Konryu have always fascinated me, but they are super, super hard work. Not easy to get, not many guys producing them. And when you do get them, they have a habit, because of the way the sumi develops, of driving you absolutely mad. Pine Tree Koipon, evening Ricky, love them Saito, Karashigoi. Yes, do you know if Dainichi bred any yellow monkey this year? So obviously spawning season has just begun. I don't know right now. I've not had a catch up with my friend on the inside there recently. But yeah, obviously I'll have my ear close to the ground on that one, because as much as I'm loving these Saito ones, and they are fantastic, let's say the Dainichi thing's pretty special. So we'll wait and see if that happens this year. Like I say, we're not truly. They did get them this year, but I think the numbers are super low, which kind of stacks up with what I was told in that, the general color of the spawn was no good. So hopefully they get that back, and mass fingers crossed that they can get the Black Zeus, or have plans to even attempt it again this year, because I've got two stunners, one of which the big female I've got is now sold and will be moved in the next couple of months at the most. And that's just going to leave me with a male one, and I'm going to be devastated. I'm not going to lie. So all fingers crossed that they can bring those back to life. Right, just bear with me. Jess, hi Ricky. How do you feel about Sakai, Showa, and do you feel like they can compete one day with Dainichi? Yeah, good question. So this is, Sakai, it's the Bluebird line mainly, and they've been putting a lot of effort into Showa recently. The numbers are still super, super low compared to the other varieties that they produce. And I even seen that in the auctions, I don't know what percentage ratio it is, but it's absolutely tiny. Where they're going to get with it, I don't know. And I find it fascinating. I mean, Showa are tough, but, the breeding knowledge that Sakai have, who knows? But we don't also know what's truly going on in the background before, you see that product come to fruition at the front. But I do know there's been a concerted effort going on. And, let's wait and see. But can they get to Dainichi's level? I think it will be difficult, because that is the true, just like Kohaku and Sankey, it's Sakai. Realistically, Kohaku and Showa is Dainichi, and so much energy, and there's so much historic blood and knowledge there in them varieties. And Dainichi is the real foundation. There's so much knowledge on producing Showa at that farm. You see Momotaro obviously rise, but even that's not been continued and got nowhere near the scale of production of the likes of Dainichi. So my gut feeling is they could do it. It's whether they've got the drive to, but I don't think it'll ever truly reach the heights of Dainichi or even Isa. Obviously, he's not mentioned in that, but Isa's really elite level when it comes to Showa. He's a real go-to guy. If we look at the likes of the Dragon Ball lineage, although I've never asked this, I believe the reasoning for crossing Showa with Sankey would not potentially be to produce a particular Sankey line or Showa line. It would be to introduce blood of a quality level high enough to create a new potential generation of parent fish where the blood has been diluted a little bit. So I actually got this. It was a conversation with Omasako in the past about Omasako Showa, because I know they are different in the way they develop. They have a real high quality pure Shirodi, which I know there's the crossing of the Omasako Shiro blood in there at some point. But it was interesting that during that conversation, I found out the true reason they actually started producing Showa was to create another Shirotsuori bloodline. This was absolutely, and when you think about it, then the complexity and the troubles that these guys face. So the idea behind it was that obviously if Omasako, nearly 99% of all Shirotsuori lineages out there have Omasako blood in now. So the problem them guys have, if they want a new parent fish to bring in, it can only really be Shirotsuori or Showa. And if they bring Showa in, you're really threatening destabilizing it all by bringing that Beni back in, which it went in right at the top years ago, and it's been weaned out over time. So basically, every other product, every other Shirotsu out there is diluted Omasako blood. It's inferior, pretty much. And having seen all the other lineages, I would agree it's inferior to the highest quality levels that they have and would need in a parent fish. So, you know, what do they do? Because there's only so long they can keep crossing from the fish that they've got before they need to outbreed again. So that was the conversation, you know, as much as they wanted to do Showa and do something that, you know, their idea was they wanted to do something different. The main purpose of it all was to produce a new line that started with Showa, pretty much how the Omasako Shiro line developed, to then eventually create a new Shirotsu line from the Showa to produce parents to then cross back over and keep diluting that blood. That shit just absolutely fascinates me. I think the complexities these top level breeders have now got, and I think that's where Sakai was kind of at, to be honest. I think in the Dragon Ball project, because it doesn't really make too much sense to cross Sankey and Showa, to be honest. But when you think about it, coming back to the whole point, Isa is seriously regarded for the quality in his lineage, like seriously regarded. But that is for Showa. And I think that's potentially, if Sakai's out there looking, he's going, well, what blood out there is actually good enough? What fish's quality is good enough to actually put back into my own line and not dilute the quality that I've got? And I think that's why Isa was identified. And that's one project they've looked to go down for that very, very reason, is that it's just an injection of quality blood in there that would ultimately create something that would allow the progression of Sankey still. Yes, there's Showa there as well out of it. So there's a double-edged sword, but I think that's probably the reason deep down for that one. Abby, how are the Sakai Kohaku doing? Fantastic. I believe by now your dealer's been in touch about all them. The growth on them has already been crazy. I've had a few shocked people. But those that I've chose to grow on have already been released into the big growing pond now. So they're on it. Just seeing a question there that without a couple. Let's have a look. I don't even think that's finished. You might not have the answer to this question without a picture of a fish, but a couple of Mako have little white spots. Yeah, without a picture, but I need to see that in a bit more detail. There's a good one. From what I see, many jump in and quote, it's a bacterial infection without actually having tests done, then set panic going. Yeah, that's pretty much like the KHV days gone by. You know, someone loses a good chunk of fish quite quickly and completely ignore the fact, you know, that they've had Costia eating the fish away. It's a KHV problem just because the gills have gone a bit shit, which also happens when Costia is rife. So, yeah. It's a bacterial infection. Yes, obviously there are signs when you can identify it is, you know, how bad the infections are, where the infections are getting them, and the general amount of the population that's got active infection as well. So you can visually diagnose it, but, you know, one fish getting a bit of a problem, is it full on? It could be the early signs, it could be the starting block, but at that very point, no, if it's just one fish, you've got to rule out other stuff. But yes, again, without having tests done, yes, I agree to some point. You need the test to truly diagnose what's going off. That needs to happen anyway. And if you see early signs of aggressive infection, you know, generally hitting the mouth, the base of the pec fins, pelvic fins, dorsal, anywhere around them areas, then really worth jumping in there early with that one and getting some diagnostics done and the water screen for bacterial count as well. But yeah, you know, if it's just 1-2 fish, you probably need, and you need to look at how the history of it as well, because if it's just 1-2 fish and you've just come out the back of a really, really horrible parasitic infestation, that's more than likely your cause. So at that point, would you say it's full-on blown bacterial infection? No, because they can often start without you know, parasitic problem. They often do need a trigger, but it's not always got to be that. So do just bear in mind, yeah, don't you know, jump in. Everyone's saying they've got a bacterial infection when one fish has just knocked it safe. And also, you know, a little clump of raised scales here and there, not often a bacterial infection. That can just be aggravation alone, normally from a parasitic problem as well. So, yeah, I'd always say, you know, do be careful about just shouting out, going crazy. But likewise, if you are seeing early signs, the faster you can jump on it with some diagnostic work, the better, rather than just waiting to see if it is going to develop into a huge bacterial problem. Because if you catch it right and early, you've got a better chance of really, saving your fish. Right, let's have a look. Evening, Ricky. Really like Matsu Kawabaki. I know they are very changeable, but who are the good breeders, and what do you look for barring body and this side? Yeah, I mean, again, just talking to Konryu, they are essence a Wagoi Konryu, fully scale Konryu. So what are we looking for? Sumi quality, absolutely paramount. Again, if you've not seen the video, the Saito Karashigoi actually features a bit on these, so well worth a watch. And it's really knowing the background behind the lineage realistically. There's no, for me, really prominent breeders springing to mind. Afuchi does a good job, but he's actually, you've got to watch it because he also does his own little take on him called a Sumizukura. Weird thing that's not really taken. But yeah, he's got some phenomenal quality in that. For me, Taniguchi's had a spell at these. I actually own one at Taniguchi that's 4 years old. I think the best parts of about 75 to 80 cm now. That's a beastly lineage, but again, he's toying with it, year on, year off. It really depends. But yeah, the big thing to look for is the Sumi quality. Don't pay too much attention to how much Sumi is there, because a lot of the Sumi Matsu Kawabaki you won't see sat under the skin. It will vary depending on the bloodline that you've got, but a lot of the Sumi just randomly comes. So, and that is part of the joy of them, to be honest with you. I think if you Tosai Nisai, just look that there are some signs of Sumi, because pure white, you really are taking a big gamble. And bearing in mind that at Tosai, you can have one completely black that by the time it's started growing and cooked up a bit, it's dropped most of that Sumi, then it starts coming back through at later Nisai and into Sanzai. So great variety. And like I say, Saito is a super interesting one now. It's on my video, but he's created that lineage from crossing. He's got a huge Ginrin Karashi that is crossed with a Ginrin Matsu Kawabaki small male Nisai that somehow it has an origins from Sakai Super Mango. So you're looking at that just going, wow, fascinating. But Kaniko's probably, actually, there you go. Kaniko's probably been the most prominent line for that variety. Matsu Kawabaki and Ginrin as well for a number of years. But they do crop up in quite a lot of different places. It's just always a case of trying to get some history, and is it all that interesting? Can it grow? Typically, they are a variety that can grow well, but you are going to want to know what they've been crossed with ultimately to try and produce it. Let's have a look. Lee, shortages of bone char. No idea, buddy. I don't. Andy's really is your bloke. Yeah, that's crazy. Can't shed any light on that one, mate. I'm not really in the products world too much on that regard, and bone char is not one that we use. Right, just bear with me. Yeah, you go look. 82 centimeter Marudo Ginrin, and they really have got the potential. Nicholas, how you doing? Hi, Ricky. As you are getting some huge fish from Dainichi, Sakai, and NAD, etc., in your collection now, have you ever been tempted to pair any of these and spawn your own fish for a bit of fun to see what you could produce? Only if I had the time, Nicholas, to be honest. And are they really potentially any parent fish in there? I wouldn't say particularly. It could happen, and they're good enough quality. But for me, the breeding game, parent fish is a completely different world. I have got 2 or 3 fish in Japan developing that I think in future would be absolutely superb parent fish. But honestly, they're another quality level above. And I think this is the difference with breeding typically that's done outside of Japan. And why it's not something I want to do and half-arse it, to be honest with you, because I know I'd just not be happy. And is the investment that's actually made into parent fish and how that influences the result coming out. So like I say, and we see this, I've just seen, Kansuke's new parent fish that he's just started producing from. Phenomenal pieces from Dainichi. But he's had to buy them young and grow them as well, because like he said, and 2 of them actually have deformities that he's not concerned about for breeding, because the real quality is there in the fish, and it's not something that'll genetically pass down. But for him, he knows without that, he'd have never been able to afford those fish, and it's the quality level that he needs to produce from. And I'm talking 80 plus cm, relatively young pieces from Dainichi, because that's a reality. You know, for breeders, they don't get any special discounts on these things. So you've got to walk into a farm, and if you want to buy one that's good to go at that point, they're going to be paying tens of thousands like anyone else would have to for the real quality. And like I say, it's not necessarily always about pattern. In fact, it's seldom about pattern. In this case, it's got to have the other two main qualities that really, really exceptionally stack up. So, yeah, I have thought about it. Don't get me wrong. It would be good fun someday, but I probably need to be in a bit of a different place in life, to be honest with you, where I can actually have some energy and concentration put into it, because I don't like half-arsing things. So, yeah, and like I say, they need some serious attention as well. Right, let's have a look. Battle of the Breeders' fish going absolutely fantastic. The main event fish are in their growing pond now. My God, in the space of a week or two of being in there, what they've stuck on. They were being prepped anyway, like the Shiros are, being fattened up and getting used to a feeding regime. And then they're just good to go. And yeah, the Shiros will be getting moved next week as well and pushed on. But yeah, looking absolutely phenomenal. Hi, Ricky. I have a case of Kohaku losing Beni. He's losing Beni genetic. My koi come from Sakai. Can I stop? No. Can I stop by feeding Sakai color food? No. Beni, not necessarily genetic, really, with color loss, because every fish is individual on that case, and you do get them, unfortunately. I've had a couple of my auction fish, only 2 to date, lose it, which it can happen. Even when we're looking at it thinking everything's right, there's some fish I can blatantly see it's going to happen on. But especially when you're raising Tosai, honestly, it's fascinating how, with as much experience I've got, all of a sudden the fish you think's great, just gone completely with such speed as well. So it's more, I think, with the Beni loss comes down to an individual level. That's why it's important to understand the potential in colour. But like I say, even with good understanding of that knowledge and experience with Tosai, you still get these random curveballs that just completely sandbag you. So yeah, individual fish, and like I say, with Tosai especially, it's just part and parcel of the ride and the journey. That's why kind of the bigger you can buy them as Tosai as well, the more security you'll have, although it's still no guarantees. And colour food won't help it at all, because what it is, there's just not enough colour in the scale to sustain it. So this is why sashi is so important, and understanding it, because that's reading the deeper, the Beni in the deeper layer of skin and the elasticity of the colour, and then making sure there's actually pigment in the middle of the scales in these young fish that can spread. Because if it's a uniform colour and there's no sashi, the minute you put that in an intense environment, you're just literally going to pull the colour to pieces, and it's job done at that point, unfortunately. So yes, there are warning signs with it though, and I think it's learning to see what those learning signs look like. And Paul, very similar question there. And if it does start, the likelihood is you won't. I say you won't stop it if there is still some potential in the colour and it's just not liking being grown too quickly. By removing it from that environment, slowing the growth right down, and looking after it well. I did it actually with a couple of fish last year, where I just knew the environment. If you're going to push them fish, you're going to pull the colour apart. But keeping them small actually saved it, and then the colour did actually really fill back in and thicken up. Again, I know there's no real future for pushing those fish, but if kept in that kind of way, they'll be really great fish for a long, long time. It's just, we found the limit of how quickly we could stretch that colour without pulling it apart. But in general, yeah, I've had one just a couple of weeks ago, and literally overnight, it's a Sankey. It's gone from looking great to being a Becco. Just never saw it coming, and it's happened. Like I say, that is the fun of Tosai. Right. So, like I say, I do need to get off. So, one more question. I see Alan there. Looking forward to seeing the NND DK Showa line. Yes. Don't get confused. I've already seen that's a bit of confusion there. There's no relation to Shirutsori in that. The relation is Donald Kerr, to be honest with you, and his great support of NND again. But I've got some background on it already. Quite exciting, because NND is one of my real favorite show lines. And yeah, this project they're embarking on could be a huge success and a great next progression for Showa at NND. So they really have been working hard on that in the past few years to really bring it back up, I think, in sort of priority levels of where they're at. Oh, there we go. Look, one last one for you guys. Ricky, thank you for your visit to Denmark. It was awesome and informative day, especially the topic about heavy metals was an eye-opener for many of us. Yeah, it was great to meet you all, and hopefully everybody did get something from it. Right, folks. So, like I say, apologies, I do need to get off, and I am going to be having a couple of weeks break from question time. So, I will obviously let you all know when it's going to be coming back on air, and when we do, like I say, going to focus more on some topical stuff, like I did with the. Not every week. I think probably week on, week off. We'll have 1 week of winging it through, and then another week of something a bit more structured, like the parasite talk, which I think everybody got a lot of value from. So now, just a reminder for those who are here at the beginning, if you're not in it already, I highly recommend that you give that a scan and jump on the WhatsApp group that we've got. I'm about to carry out an auction of 2 phenomenal fish, which I will show you again on my phone, although they look terrible on here, in conjunction with Chris at JPN Koi. So we've got this stunning Saito Ginrin Tancho Kohaku, absolute peach, and they're a nightmare to get hold of. And then that stunning Ginrin Kawari that... yeah, if you look at that on the Saito video, you see the side shot of it through a window. That thing is going to look the absolute nuts. So as soon as I drop off, I'm going to send some information on there about how you can access that auction. And best of luck to everybody. 2 phenomenal fish there up for grabs. And then this weekend, we'll be doing the release of the Saito Ginrin Karashis as well. So... yes, there we go. Thank you, everybody tuned in. Amazing numbers, just peaked out about 200 there again on the live. Always blows my mind, the support on that. Love it. So, yeah, stay tuned. The channel, you might have noticed, we really upped it. We are farming a lot of content out at the minute. We're getting some new processes and stuff in there. So as much to help you guys with your koi keeping journey as physically possible, and obviously share the journey that we're on and what we're up to as well. So... there we are. Thanks for everyone who's tuned in. I'm going to get back to it, and I'll catch you all in a couple of weeks.